Welcome to Robert Fish Aerobatics, where you'll find us right in the middle of glassing a wing with 3/4 ounce glass and epoxy. Of course, we've already done the majority of it, and this is actually the final part here. It's called the paper towel method, or whatever you want to call it. This is where we take a paper towel, or some people use toilet paper, the old Scott single roll stuff, you know, the real cheap stuff, and roll it over. There's a number of ways to do this, but if you look here, all this red stuff, this is epoxy that we're removing from the airplane. This is just excess. And then you look down here, go ahead and shine it down here where you see this kind of satiny finish. That we've absorbed all the extra epoxy and pushed the fiberglass right against the wood. Okay, that is the key to doing this, and not only getting a good finish, but also doing it and not, you know, piling pounds of weight on your airplane. You hear people go, oh, well, fiberglass and paint is great, but it's heavy. Well, it is if you do it wrong. So here's a kind of a quick overview. What we've done so far is, you know, we've pre-cut our glass, and this is the first time I've done a whole wing. Usually used to do the panel and flip it, you know, like that, but we're doing it from tip to tip. We've done it on the bottom. Here's what we did last night right here. Okay, and all of this, okay, that's 700 square inches of fiberglass, 1 ounce. No, I'm sorry, 1/2 ounce. Hard to believe. I had to look at the scale 3 times to make sure that, and re-zero it. But yeah, so it's not how much fiberglass you put down, it's how much you take off, and you leave just the right amount. It's sort of analogous to vacuum bagging a layup in a mold, doing the exact same thing, except this is kind of doing it manually. So what I'm using 3/4 ounce per yard fiberglass, which is pretty much standard for this operation. This is methyl alcohol. Okay, and if you're fortunate enough not to live in the People's Republic of California, you can actually go down and buy this at Ace Hardware. In California you can't, because they go, oh, meth heads use that to make meth or crack or whatever, and so we got to take that away from everybody else. Kind of like they do with these. Oh, it's crime, so we'll take those away. If you live in California, get the fuck out, leave while you got the chance. Anyway, that's the political aspect of this. But anyway, so what I'm doing here is spraying a little bit of that alcohol in there, kind of thins the epoxy on the surface and makes this much more effective. So you don't have to go over it again and again and again and again. You know, just get a little bit out. So look at here where you can see where it's absorbing up. Mostly on the leading edge here, because I've already kind of done this back part. But I'll hit it again. I'll hit it again until it's all kind of that matte finish, and there's nothing. You can see kind of a little bit of rumply stuff here. That's just extra resin that's pooled up. It's actually kind of coming up from the balsa. And this is a dry roller. That's the wet roller. Mix up a little bit. I'm using West Systems 105, and I'm using fast hardener, because that's what I have. And it's very cool in here. I've got it at 72 degrees, so this stuff doesn't kick off prematurely. But so that's what we're doing here. And I've kind of trimmed it off around the edge. Let's see what we look like here. We're starting to look, really good. Okay, here's some areas. These are actually like little blobs of extra epoxy, little pools here. I pulled the paper towel up. Okay, so I'm gonna go back and hit these again. These are local areas of where I put a little more extra epoxy on to where it looked like there were some dry spots. We used the roller initially and rolled the epoxy onto the wood. And then laid the glass down over it. I mean, there's different ways to do this, and I'm sure there's going to be some people in the comments, no, man, you're supposed to do it like this or that. Well, you know, Good, I'm glad that works for you. But this is what I know. And so this is how I do it. Like I say, put a half ounce onto 700 square inches of this stuff on a wing. I must have a clue about what I'm doing. So, and some of this stuff, this doesn't want to, that might actually be, oh, there it goes. Get it to flow. You have to actually, sometimes you just got to get your fingers into it and get it to flow out. Then, you know, I'll let that harden, I'll block that out. I'm not concerned about this because by the time we get done sanding on this, you know, it's gonna be half again the weight of whatever's left over. So let's come around here to the wingtip. We have Jennifer today on the camera, does all of our wonderful camera work. She's very good. So I've trimmed this, and this is wet, and I'm just taking, this is just a dry brush. So I'm making sure and just getting everything to lay down. There's an overlap here. You want a little overlap, just like if you were applying Monocoat or Ultracoat, whatever. Same thing, I'm gonna overlap that around the edge. It may pick up a little bit, that's okay, but there's epoxy there, so it's hardened. I'm just cutting the hinge areas for the ailerons here just off square because I'll go back and I'll treat that area separately. There's going to be a little bit of detail work like that, and the wheel wells and a couple other things. Okay, here's a little problem area. Let's come back and get this. Come around here, I'll run. Look at this leading edge over here. Get the chair out there. Over here. Okay, so you can see what I'm dealing with here. Here's a little bobble. I'll just pull that down by hand. And I'll kind of do the same thing over here because these are bubbles that are full of epoxy. I'll kind of pull them out, just kind of squish them out. They're kind of squishy right now, so I can kind of spread that epoxy out towards the edge here. This is all overlapped on the leading edge here. So now we'll go ahead and we'll spray this up. Get it real wet. And then we'll go ahead and put the paper towel down. I don't think you can overdo the wet with the alcohol, at least I haven't yet. And this is the first time I've done that. It just seems like this, it works well with this West Systems epoxy. Is a little higher viscosity product. Something like maybe like I know the Bob Smith 20-minute stuff, the real thin stuff. That's also really good for glassing, and also the Zap product, the Z epoxy, is a little lower viscosity. This stuff's a little better suited for actually layups and stuff in the mold, but it's good for this. It's very good for this. It's easy to sand, and it's very uniform and consistent and well known. I'm not dealing with anything unknown here, nothing weird. You know, I have a good probability that I'm going to get a really good result. And of course, prior to this, you know, this all means nothing if your woodwork isn't blocked down to where you've got a good true surface. You know, just like if you were going to go and put an iron-on covering on. And prior to that, even these cores were CNC cut. They were perfect. An outfit I had cut these for me, a place called Flying Foam in Texas, who's unfortunately out of business anymore, but they did do a good quality product on the cores. So when your cores are dead nuts, your sheeting's gonna lay on there dead nuts. You know, the further down the pyramid you start and get that right, the better it's gonna look when you get to the tip of the pyramid. because this stuff will all block out really nicely with like 320. I don't have to do a bunch of, you know, a lot of leveling, because it's already level. The surfaces are already very level for me here. This is going to be very nice. The final finish on this airplane, by the way, this is a Vertigo II, which was an old Skyglass kit. This is not a Skyglass kit. There's a lot of errors in this airplane that I kind of redrew these plans. The Skyglass kits were dubious in quality. This right here, if we can show this, Jennifer, can you done? This is an epoxy. The original Skyglass fuselages were polyester. They had a built-in firewall and motor mount that were rarely pointed in the right direction. This was a fuselage that was splashed by Tim Reed in Texas, SPA flyer out there. And this one's epoxy glass. So I'm doing an upright engine on this. There's a Nova Rossi that sits in here on a soft mount. This will probably be the first ever, as far as I know, Vertigo II that has an upright, anything other than a side mount. So that's the fuselage. Here's the stabilizer. This is recycled from the previous Vertigo II that met its end in the desert floor in Lancaster, California. So that's what we're doing. The Vertigo II was my second real pattern plane. My first real pattern plane was a Super Chaos 40. Flew my first contest with that. And then I built two of these when I was a teenager. Used to burn about 2 gallons of gas a week in flying novice pattern back in the day. And so here we are today, still kind of pursuing the same dream. It's a dwindling field. People are either dying, aging out, or, you know, new people, they don't get it. They look at it and they go, but I can buy a foamy, and, you know, it's like, few people get it. But, so the rest of us will kind of enjoy this while we can. You know, I'm going to fly these things until I can't, and that's it. It's all I really do in RC is classic pattern. The rest of it, I mean, I do some sailplane. I did some pylon racing back in the 80s. You know, I learned on gliders. I still do a little bit of, you know, again, okay, so you can't argue with foam airplanes when the Chinese do it right. I have the Chinese EDF jets. They're fabulous. I've got my, you know, my EDF or my foam Chinese full house sailplane that I can be $2,000 full composite airplanes with. It just depends on who's doing the sticks. So anyway, thanks for joining us. There'll be more on this airplane as we go along. This is the Vertigo II, and you are watching Robert Fish Aerobatics. We thank you for watching. Please click like and subscribe down below. It helps the channel grow. We appreciate your watching, and we'll see you next time.